Check, 1, 2, 3. Yo, this is Terrance from Suffocation. You're watching Agoraphobic News.
Hey, Milos here of Agoraphobic News, this time with Mr. Terrance Hobbs of Suffocation. Hello, sir, how are you?
Hey, I'm hanging in there, man. I'm just chilling out here, happy to be in Serbia and happy to be playing for you guys, man.
Okay, so it's been a while, so are you excited about today's show?
Yeah, actually, I really am. I mean, Serbia is a beautiful country, man. The first time we came here, it was pretty cool. Not the greatest turnout, but it was nice to see all the diehard fans. But tonight seems to be a little bit better. The atmosphere is a little better. The venue is much nicer. So it should be a good time.
Yeah, amazing. So, and in 2023, you released the album Hymns of the Apocrypha. So, are you happy about the reception of the album?
Actually, yeah, it's been a really good reception. I mean, we've been on tour pretty much every other month since that album came out. The diehard fans seem to really have enjoyed it. The new fans that we're picking up along the way, playing with some newer bands, they seem to be getting into it. It was a very homegrown album, so it meant a lot to us. And I think it's doing what it's got to do,
And that's the first album without Frank Mullen, right? So what was like your vision of the album? Like, what did you want to achieve with it?
Well, really, I mean, there's been some new guys over the last decade, and with Ricky Myers doing his first record with us, even though we've known him forever, it was just something that was kind of special. It was really nice because Ricky he's got great timing and things like that, and really worked hard on it. So, with that being said, he's very proud of it, just like I am.
Amazing. So, and you had like the guest appearance of Frank Mullen on Ignorant Deprivation. He did like the vocals for the song. So, are you in touch with him?
Oh yeah, of course I'm still in touch with him. I mean, the guys and me, we all hang out with him every now and then. He doesn't live too far away from me and Derek, so that's a good thing. And we always keep in touch. We always have our rapport. We've known each other for countless years now at this point. So, I mean, it's good to have good friends, even though his musical choice was his musical choice, and not us telling him that.
Yeah. So, and is there maybe a way for him to come back to the band or not? Is that a possibility?
Well, I mean, I never count anything out except for I don't know. Frank really wanted to retire. He really meant it. As far as recording some riffs and stuff like that, we still have another Breeding the Spawn song, so we want to do the best that we can do. And of course, I'm always going to badger Frank to come and sing it because, that was something that we started with. That album really deserved a better production. And every time we record one of the songs off of it, it's always good to have Frank on. Can't promise you that, but I can definitely tell you that I will make the attempt and talk to him and see if he wants to do it.
Yeah. Amazing. So, and did you ever think about, after the new album, when you finished the last song from Breeding the Spawn, to like re-record the entire thing with Frank Mullen and vocals?
Well, I mean, that would always be a nice thing, but I don't think that Frank really wants to go back that far. That was someplace when we were kids, and, there's been so much music since then that to just go back and re-record an old album is a really nice thought, but I don't know if that's going to be in touch with the new band as well. So, I mean, it's always a nice thought. But at least everybody will get a re-recorded version of it somewhere along the way on one of our albums, and you can put it all together yourself.
Yeah. And so, when you look back now to this album, so are you completely unsatisfied, unhappy with it, or not?
Oh, no. I'm totally... Well, as far as the album Breeding the Spawn, that album itself, the music was great on it. It was just the production really suffered. And every person from Stip to Stern, older members and newer members, we all know that it just deserves its time and day. So that's why we kind of record one on every record, And it kind of wouldn't be right without Frank, considering that he was the one who was singing it. So we always keep that in mind.
And are you working on a new album, maybe?
Well, I mean, we're always going to be working on a new album. Maybe a single soon, maybe another live record with Ricky on it would be a good thing for us to do. We've just got a lot of touring, and because this album's still relatively new, we're just going to be out, just playing around the world as much as possible and making sure that people hear it. Bring it to them live so they can see that we're just not some funk faking band, and worry about an album later. We have a lot of material that people can go back and grab and listen to, so it's not so imperative that we make an album like every year is where we used to do it, maybe every once or twice. I mean, between this album and between hymns between him and the Apocrypha and Of the Dark Light was about 6 years. So with that being said, we have a bit of time, and we always want to take our time to make a good record.
And you know what I noticed, like when you look at the American death metal scene, like you have like mass breaks between albums, but like the Swedish guys are like hyper production every second year. So what's your thought on that, like mass production of albums?
Well, mass production of albums is one thing. I mean, things have changed in the music industry over the course of time. I'm not young anymore, but the bands that are really driven and eager and that can produce and that sit there and have the time to, they can. It has changed a little bit over the course of time for us because now we have, 10 albums out. We're not trying to make an album a year, and if by that time I'd already have 30 records. So, but I would think that I would think that the majority of them wouldn't be things that we really consider suffocation. So there's a lot of riff writing and a lot of scrapping of material in order to bring forth the stuff that we feel is more adequate for you guys. And so, just be patient. It takes time to write a good record, and we want to make sure that the record is also a little different for us because that keeps us interested. Nobody wants to write an album from 1989 and 1990 and 1991 for 30 years straight. Even though it sounds good, it just wouldn't be so.
Yeah, I agree. So your first album, Effigy of the Forgotten, was dedicated to the memory of Roger Patterson of Atheist. So what is your memory of him, and was he like a huge influence for the band?
Well, Roger and Kelly and all the guys ran from Atheist back in the beginning of Suffocation. When we first started playing gigs outside of New York State, we were playing gigs with them in New Jersey and so on and so forth. So we all became friends, and Roger was a beast of a bass player, hell of a writer, just an all-around good guy. He's very friendly, and it was a shame to see him go so soon. So big up to Mr. Patterson. He's a great guy.
A legend.
Yeah, a legend in his own right. Just like Chuck Death, who was a friend, and when we first started, we were in the studio around with them and things like that. So, in memory of those guys, big up to him, man. Everybody should go and check out those early records.
And it's like he's like the Cliff Burton of death metal, like
exactly, exactly, thrash metal more or less. But I mean, still, with that being said, Atheist, the guys are out there kicking ass after all these years. So, man, give them a shot. Go and check them out live. They always want your support. They love to tear it up. They're a great bunch of guys. They love to party and be out there with their fans. Pretty much like Suffocation. You always catch us out there around in the crowd and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm not sure like if Effigy is like the first death metal album in C tuning or not.
Well, Effigy and Human Waste were in the C tuning. We did end up tuning up to C sharp, which we're still in today. It just was a little bit different. Back then, we were trying to figure out what felt good on the guitars and stuff, so we were constantly changing picks and strings and things, and it just fell into something that just became comfortable C sharp with the string gauges that we use and the guitar picks that we use and stuff. But with that being said, there may be a time that we may tune down a little bit back to C, maybe even B. I can't say we'll necessarily go to 7 strings for the gent guys. I'm sorry, but that's just not us. And
yeah, but my question was like, were you the first guys that did that in C tuning, like death metal album in C tuning or not?
Well, I couldn't really tell you if we were the only guys that were in C tuning that you might,
91.
yeah, 91 that you would know of. I do know that the bands that were around back then, some of them did down tune a little bit. Some of them did do a little bit of drop tuning. I think that our claim to fame would have been just the heavy slam part and some technical riffing, with the blast beat drumming. I think a lot of people copied that more than they did whether or not it was the tuning or not,
Yeah, and so Legion of Inveracity, so do you agree, is that the first like slam riff ever or not?
I think that it is by other people, not by me, because I don't want to be that big waterhead, fucking self-indulgent guy.
Yeah.
But I think that bringing that heavy type of slam, root, groove, riff type style thing into the thrash, death metal, black metal type sort of area, deathcore, and all the newer stuff. Yeah, I think it was one of the earlier ones.
Yeah, and the artwork for the first album was done by Dan Seagrave. So how did that happen?
Well, that was actually a Roadrunner thing. They gave us a choice of artists to choose from. And Dan Seagrave had already done some great artwork out there in the world. And, he just came up with some brilliant ideas. And when we saw the artwork, it was pretty jaw-dropping to us. And we loved it. And Roadrunner loved it. So that's what we used. And Dan's an amazing artist, man.
And that machine, like on the artwork, does it have something to do like with Warhammer or stuff like that, or not?
Well, no, it doesn't. It just had to do with the kind of theme that we were going for, which was more, I guess, not necessarily like a satanic underground theme, although it had a little bit of it, but more of just like a futuristic type of theme, you know, in
Terminator.
general. Yeah, yeah, in general, and you know how people are just human pieces of shit and deserve to be ripped up most of the time. So that was kind of a concept of it.
Amazing. So, and what's your favorite Dan Seagrave artwork? Is it like Souls to Deny or Effigy?
I mean, I would totally have to say that it was Effigy the Forgotten. I mean, to me, that was a fantastic piece of artwork. You know, I really can't complain about any of that. And Dan's done a lot of good things. He's done, you know, the Morbid Angel and the Carnage and a bunch of other album covers that are just, I mean, Decrepit Birth. They're just phenomenal pieces of artwork. So big up to Dan and big up to the artists that are doing things, because the computer's coming for your jobs just like mine.
They took our jobs.
They took our jobs.
Took the dirt. Okay,
You know.
so yeah, it's gonna happen one day.
I think so, man. But
Especially with music, with all the samples, like that was like the hint in the 80s, like look at this sample music.
yeah, of course. And, you know, a lot of people went against that. Just like, you know, how the metal elitists and the hard rock elitists were against keyboards and things being in music. And I mean, I think it all has its place. Maybe not with us so much, but with other bands it does. And for us, we have to always remember, you know, we're the ones that are building these frickin' machines, so we have to stay one step ahead. And as long as we're one step ahead, there'll always be a time and place for an artist, for a musician, for somebody to teach these things to people and keep our culture alive, you know?
One step ahead of the Terminators.
That's right. That's what we got to do.
Okay, so Pierce from Within. So how important was that album for you guys?
Well, in hindsight, after being so many years and people actually giving us such a wide and broad reception and just sticking with us throughout all those years and growing up with me and, you know, through the music, I think it was a very important record for myself and for my band in general. So thank you guys for sticking with us and listening to it. I hope we never disappoint you, but we need space to grow too, so there's always going to be a little bit of something different every time. You know?
And when you look back, would you consider like the first album like technical death metal or not? Or would you say that's Pierce from Within?
Well, personally,
Rating.
I think that all of them had a taste of technical death metal, also hard beatdown heavy riffs, and, you know, venturing into almost like the hardcore slammy stuff. And with that being said, I'm glad that it was a meld that people kind of put together in their minds, that they could accept both being played, and I think that's really important. And so, you know, Effigy of the Forgotten was a very influential record for me, but also to the techies, where it's just gone far and beyond that now. 7/8 string guitars, very virtuoso music, very all over the place, very math metal type style music. I think it did spawn a lot with that, you know.
Amazing. So, and what was it like working with Scott Burns?
Hey, Scott Burns is the best. I mean, you can't knock the guy. I mean, I really did beg him for to be the guy to mix and master our record, just this last one, and I was fortunate to run into him and talk to him in person and play him some of the pre-production stuff that we had been piecing together over the years while we were touring. And he was just like, well, there's not really much I can do for you. And that was like a blessing to me, because back in the day when I was young, you know, 20 years old, working with him and being out in the studio and just learning what a lot of what it was about in the process of recording, that really stemmed onto this new record, and it was recorded very much in the same style that he would have done it in. So I hope he's proud, because he taught me a little bit, but I'm more proud that he was there to really lead us in the direction and show us how it is to be a real live record and to work. I mean, a real live record for an album and be able to work as a band, and how tracking would happen and so on and so forth.
And so how crazy was the time, you know, Tampa, Florida and Morrisound Studios, all the bands are there, you know.
All those bands were down there, especially when we were down there. Big up to the Hoffman brothers and Glenn Ben from Deicide for showing out, all the guys in Morbid for showing out, all the guys there from Nancy Savage and on and on and on, a Solstice, you name it. Those dudes were down there. They all came. James Murphy came to pay us a visit down there. El Duce from the Mentors came and paid us a visit. Bobby Coble from Death to All right now, who's out there supporting the old school stuff, came to pay us a visit. So it was very nice for us to be able to be introduced to all those people down there that were making the scene happen, us being from New York, and to be received and to learn and grow and, just put out an awesome record, man, for its time.
Yeah, amazing. So, and the Despise the Sun EP, so it sounds like a bit more groovy, and there are no solos. Why is that?
Well, at that point in time, the metal scene for us wasn't really doing everything, and it was very hard for us to get shows, to get anybody to work with us, just to be able to go out and play and try to make a living and do the touring that we were doing when we were making records. So we thought it was pretty much the end. So we had a couple of songs, and we wanted them to be really aggressive. We wanted them to be really straightforward. We wanted them to be really grindy, and that has a lot to do with why there wasn't so much solo work on it, because we were just going for the straight aggression of it all. Everybody was kind of pissed off, in fact. So Dave Colross had stepped into the picture at that time. He was a great drummer and very aggressive on his own. So we were able to actually push the envelope a little bit on that record, almost like a Terrorizer fashion, or something to that effect, even though they're very different records. One's an EP, one's an album, one's a little bit more hardcore, and one's a little bit more, punk style-y. But for us, we just wanted to go straight for death metal and just go straight for it.
Yeah, amazing. So, I love Souls to Deny album, but I think Blood Oath is one of the best, Suffocation albums, because it sounds like more dissonant, which is not like a common theme as much in Suffocation. So where does this dissonance come from?
Well, a lot of the dissonance just came from as musicians we were growing, but also everybody having some input. Like Mike Smith wrote some riffs in there, I had wrote riffs, Guy wrote riffs, so we all have a little bit different of a style, which is a great thing. As the band grows together, it produces different style of music, a different vibe in music, and I think that was just a good take for the time and era where we were at. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Amazing. So, and what about Gorgas Obscura? Was that album like a huge influence on you or not?
Well, Obscura was great. Considered Dead was like one of the greatest heavy records that I can think of out there from that time and era. There's a few others, obviously, Exhorter and, Obituary and things like that. And, those old Roadrunner to Earache bands, But really, that Gorguts record was a very strange record, coming from the earlier Gorgut stuff, where, Luke LeMay, who's a good friend of ours, we used to go back and forth and just visit each other. I've been in their jam session rooms and stuff like that, just like Cryptopsy, and they've been ours. So it was definitely a unique change, but as Luke grew as a musician, I think that came out more on that record than most.
And did you used to know Steve Hurdle or not?
Steve, the original drummer?
The guitarist.
Oh, the guitar player, yeah. Steve, I met him a couple of times. Yeah, he's a very good player, man. Very good player. But, I mean, everybody's got to give it to Luke. And, if you're going to play Luke in pool, be careful.
Okay. And so, can you name, 5 of your favorite albums?
Oh.
Any album, like metal, non-metal?
I could probably name, more than that, but I would have to say, Malice from Maleficarum from Pestilence, Considered Dead from Gorguts, Leave Scars, We Have Arrived from Dark Angel, Retribution from Malevolent Creation, the Solstice record. There's so many I could go. Altars of Madness, all of those records really had Eaten Back to Life. All of them had something to do, with us. Ripping Corpse, Dreaming with the Dead. Fucking great records, man.
Okay, and a couple of short questions. So the riff that you're the most proud of?
I don't know if I have a riff that I'm most proud of. I mean, every record has something to do, and they're all equally just, a part of me. As far as some musicianship, Cycles of the Suffering for me would have to be a good one. Pierce from Within has got some great writing. There's just a slew of them. Pinnacle of Bedlam, the song itself, is one of my favorites playing-wise. So there's a lot of songs that are all my favorite. I can't weigh one over the other one that easily.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much for the interview. And
all right, man. Agoraphobic News. Keep watching, keep listening. Suffocation. We'll be back, Serbia. We'll be back.
Amazing. Thanks so much.
Cheers, my friend.
Hey people, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Agoraphobic News. Please like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel to help us grow. You can also support us on Patreon by becoming one of our patrons. And big shout out to our patron Season of Mist for supporting our work. So stay tuned for another interview and keep it metal.